I just noticed Mal McGurk's in the room, so we better behave. Hi folks, you're all very welcome along tonight. My name is Stephen McGinn. I'm the Sports and Education Officer with Fingal County Council with the sports unit. What we're going to do tonight is we won't keep you for too long. The idea is that we can just give you an idea of what we do in the sports unit in Fingal, but also kind of the different pathways there are, things like funding, to coach education, to everything that we kind of offer clubs with a whole view towards better development planning and kind of long-term planning. So tonight here we've got myself, Stephen McGinn. We've got Kieran Russell, who is our community sports hubs coordinator, and we've got Owen McGrath, who is our sports conditioning officer. And we also have Jennifer Hennessy, who's the regional manager for Clan Credo, who are a social finance not-for-profit. So as we go through the presentation, everyone will introduce themselves a bit better as well. So just one thing I'd ask you to do, if you have any questions, just throw them into the chat box, and we'll get to them at the end. And just if you keep your microphone muted, that'd be brilliant as well. And the presentation itself, we won't keep you any longer than half an hour here on this, and then we have as much time for questions at the end as is needed. So we'll get going. So like I said, this presentation is aimed at kind of club committees or administrators, or I know we have a couple of clubs who are just starting. And the idea is that it'll give you an idea of how you can help to develop your long-term future for the club. And one of the main areas that we're going to look at on this is, what is the Club Development Toolkit? And it's basically a series of steps that your club can follow. So it'll help you improve access to coach education, to funding, and best practice as well. And that should help you to create kind of a long-term club development plan. In case anyone's not sure what a development plan is, it's essentially a business plan for your club. Okay, so it identifies your club's vision for the future. And it should be a working document. Okay, so it's always live. And because it's like that as well, it should always be easy to read. It should be kept clear. It should be nice and simple. And the nature of clubs, committees tend to change every few years if you're lucky, but they tend to change every few years. So the idea with the development plan is that as the committees might change or the people might change, the vision for the club stays the same. So it's very, very important, like that a development plan, it looks at where a club was, it looks at where you are now, and it looks at where you want to be. So you'll do that then by setting out some short, some medium and long-term goals to achieve that. And just like the starting point then for any kind of group or subcommittee looking at creating a club development plan should be an internal SWOT analysis. Okay, so you'll look at your club's strengths and your weaknesses. They're your internal factors. And then you'll look at what you think your club's opportunities and threats are. So that's the external things that might affect your club. And you can also couple this with a club consultation. And what that is, it's where you talk to the other members of the club, so the wider membership of the club, and get a feel for what the club is doing well or what it can improve on. And you can also do a community consultation as well. And it's something that a lot of clubs wouldn't do. So it's a really good piece of work because it shows the view of your club in the wider community. And just, I suppose, from my own club's point of view, we would have done this. I'll just share this now. We would have done this a few years, last year, sorry, as part of, I'm involved with Clontarf GA Club. And we would have done this as part of our Healthy Clubs initiative. So you should be able to see the PDF there. This was a kind of a community and a wider membership consultation that we did. The idea was we wanted to see what we were doing well from a Healthy Club point of view, and we wanted to give ourselves a bit more direction as well. So we did this, over about 300 people responded, and 80% of them were club members. Most of them were long-playing club members, but there was 20% there from the community as well, which was great. And we asked them a couple of simple questions. So first of all, how did people view the club? So was the club welcoming? Did we contribute to the positive health and well-being of our playing members, of our non-playing members, and to the wider community? So you can see, obviously, mainly internal responses. So everyone's going to think we're very welcoming. 92% happy with that. Again, are we contributing to the players' health and well-being? Again, 92%. Great, great to see that. Do we contribute to the non-playing health, the health and well-being of the non-playing members? Only 66% there. It's good, but it can be better. And again, what's interesting is the wider view was that we're contributing more to the external community and to the non-playing community or the non-member community. So again, it just gives us, it managed to give us a little bit of focus. And then we were able to ask people what they thought their preferred area of focus should be. So 63% of people replied saying with their first or second choice being mental fitness. So kind of things like resilience and mental health, and social inclusion was the next one. So really, really important, and really important for us to see what the wider community thought and what the club thought itself. And so, you know, that's just to give you an idea of what a community consultation will look like, or what a consultation will look like. And the results of these 3 bits of work, I suppose, will give you a good jumping off point for your medium-term goals or your short-term goals for a development plan as well. And then just when it comes to a club development plan, I suppose it's important to remember that it needs wide support from the club executive or the committee. If you have a coaching subcommittee or any other subcommittees, they need to be on board with it as well. And whether that's a facilities committee or, you know, a finance committee, it needs wide support then from the club members and parents. So again, that's how you communicate the plan, how you get it out there. And also if you're linked in with your national and governing body, you know, it's very, very important that they're on board with the plan too. And we'll talk about this a little bit more later, but I know like the bigger national governing bodies especially, they'll have great resources that you can use around your club development plan as well. And if you have a club development officer, I know there's a few here from different clubs, and if you have a club development officer, obviously they need to be a big part of this too. And so just, I suppose, our role within Fingal Sports Office is, first of all, it's club support. So we're here to provide kind of grassroots access to education, training, funding avenues, administrative support in the form of things like committee skills, governance, best practice, and to help provide a link to your national governing body if it's not there already. And the first step, I suppose, in linking in with Fingal is the Fingal PPN, and that's the Public Participation Network. And what that is, for anyone who's not familiar with it, it's an independent network of community, voluntary, social inclusion and environmental organisations. And the idea is that they're working to build a better county for the community of Fingal. And the PPN then acts as an information hub. So it keeps the community informed of kind of what relevant local issues are there, what news they have, what events they are that are on, resources and supports that are available. So if you're going for funding through the council, any of the council funding avenues, you have to register with the Fingal PPN. And what I'll do at the end is I have an information sheet with kind of different useful links for the local community that I'll forward on to everyone as well. And so we'll just go into the funding opportunities next. So when it comes to funding from the sports section in Fingal, directly from the sports section in Fingal, there's 2 main opportunities for funding every year. So you've got the youth sports grants, which is, it's an aims to kind of assist existing clubs towards equipment purchase, referees, coaching fees, that kind of stuff. And any applications that create kind of a positive impact on participation levels at juvenile level and demonstrate sustainability would be kind of, they'd be seen as a greater chance of getting funding approval. And they usually come out each year in around August, and it's basically a small grant towards the running of the club. And the one key is you have to have a juvenile section to apply for it. And say, for example, last August, a huge number of clubs would have applied for funding to cover some of the costs that were associated with reopening safely in light of COVID-19. And the beauty about the youth sports grant, I suppose, is there's no matched funding required. So a lot of other grants, you'll need some sort of funding to put towards it, whereas the youth sports grant's not the case. And then you've got sports equipment funding as well. So the purpose of this funding is, again, it's kind of to enhance what is already there. So it's not to kind of supplement the day-to-day running cost of a club, but it's kind of enhance what you have already. And And again, that grant can be used for sports equipment, first aid equipment like defibrillators, and the training to go with that. It can be used for health and safety equipment. Again, anything that will enhance what's already on offer from the club. So clubs here, you can apply for a maximum of €2,000, but you have to contribute 20% funding. So essentially what that means is if you apply for if you have a project that costs $2,500, you know, you can apply for the €2,000 funding, and the club will have to contribute 500 towards it. There's a few different things on this because, like the council, there's a lot of different steps to applying for it. So no equipment should be purchased prior to any approval, as the money on this can't be paid retrospectively. So it is important to wait for approval, and that process takes about 8 weeks from submitting the application, as it does have to go through several stages of the council, and which most of you probably know can be quite layered. When it comes to these two types of funding, I suppose if the project is larger, it's better to go for the sports equipment funding. But if you can wait and it's not, and you're not in any mad rush to do what you have to do, the youth sports grants, it's a less restricted funding stream. So it's an easier one to apply for and an easier one to spend. And of course, excuse me, there's a double funding rule on this as well. So you can only apply for one of these streams per year. So it's important that you take that into account, and when you are applying or when you are deciding which one to apply for. And next up then, the bigger one, which you'll probably all be familiar with, is the Sports Capital and Equipment Grant. And so really, if you haven't started the process of applying for a Sports Capital grant for this year, you know, it's probably best to hold off till 2021 till that funding comes out. And they did recently just extend the application deadline. So you have to be registered by the 15th of February 2021. And applications now have to be in by 5 o'clock on 1st of March 2021. So it is tight. It's quite a hefty process to go through. One of the things that people tend to slip up on this one is your club needs to have a tax number. So if you need that, again, if you haven't registered as a tax number, you have to do that first before you can register on sportscapitalprogram.ie. And again, I'll email that registration form to everyone at the end as well. So the steps for this really are: you register your club first of all at sportscapitalprogram.ie, and applications are due by the 1st of March 2021. There's funding caps on this as well. So the max grant for local projects is 150,000. And again, that's probably exceptional circumstances. Most people won't get 150,000. And maintenance grants are capped at 30,000, and regional grants are capped at 300,000. Again, they're probably best case scenario. Most people won't get that type of funding. And it is important then to check out the Sports Capital Programme website. They have their frequently asked questions. Again, on the information that I'm going to send you at the end, all the links for this is in that. And the way the funding works there is that the allocations are made throughout 2021. And if you've applied for something that's equipment only, that'll be awarded first. And everything else then comes depending on the volume of applications, so all the other awards. And then just a couple of things that are important on this. You know, you need to have at least 5% of the total project costs in either savings or on loan when making the application. And you must be able to provide evidence of this as well. So there's some examples of kind of projects that will be allowed, like things like natural grass pitches, tracks and courts, including things like pitch drainage, which is very good. Any artificial surfaces, flood lighting, as long as it's LED, has to be LED. Fitness studios, security fencing, ball stop nets, goalposts, all that's covered under the Sports Capital and Equipment Grant. Excuse me. And then there's a list of things that aren't covered as well. So, you know, running or operational costs aren't covered, car parks aren't covered, playgrounds, bars or kitchens, and interestingly enough, swimming pools aren't covered either. So, you know, it's just important to take all that into account. All that, again, is on the frequently asked questions. I'm going to hand over to Jennifer here, just from Clonquito. She's just going to talk a little bit about what the services they offer clubs. They're a social finance not-for-profit group. So Jennifer, if you want to jump in there.
Great. Stephen, thank you very much for the opportunity just to say a few words to people on the webinar here this evening. My name is Jennifer Hennessy, and I work for an organisation called Clan Credo. And I just want to make sure that you're all aware of Clan Credo, who are community loan finance providers. So how that's relevant to you all is that we provide access to loans to voluntary sports clubs. So over the last 25 years, we have been providing loans to various sports clubs around the country. Just to name a few, you have Stella Maris Football Club, Raheny GAA Club, St. Martha's Football Club, and then I see there's a couple of representatives from hockey clubs on the webinar. We've provided loans to a number of hockey clubs, to boxing clubs, and the list goes on, athletics clubs. So we're a non-profit organisation, and we have charitable status, and we exist to try and help to fund community organisations. So I suppose some groups on the call, you might be making applications to for sports capital grants. And just to let you know that Clan Credo, we provide access to the match funding for your project. So as Stephen mentioned, in your applications for sports capital funding, you have to provide a minimum of your own funds towards your project. But often in cases, as Stephen mentioned there, some of the bigger projects, not everybody gets the 150,000 that they might apply for, and with the sports capital application, you have to show that you can cover all the costs of your project. So say, for example, your project is costing, if you're doing, I don't know, if you were to be looking at doing an AstroTurf pitch and costs were, over 300,000, you have to show that you can come up with the other 150,000, either from your own funds or from a loan. So yeah, it's just to say that we're there. Clan Credo is here. We also we have been providing approval in principle, which to help groups support their applications for the sports capital grant. And so what we have been saying to people, as you can see there, the deadline for your applications is the 1st of March 2021. In Clan Credo, if a group wants to have an approval in principle on a loan to support their application to sports capital, and they need to get those requests into us in Clan Credo by the 12th of February. Stephen will share my details on the information sheet that he's sending out after this, or you can look on the Clan Credo website and get more details on that. So yeah, just hopefully that is a little of some help. And if you're not applying for sports capital grants, you can apply to Clan Credo for loans for other purposes as well, if we're not just linked with the sports capital grants. So that was the key information. I'll stay on the call in case anyone has any questions later. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny. That was brilliant. So as you can see, like, there is an awful lot to the sports capital program. If you're in the middle of applying now, we're just going to go through some of the kind of compulsory documents that you do need, and some of the pitfalls maybe that the department would have told us that would be common for people. So, and if you haven't started the process, or if you're not starting the process now, but you're thinking of starting it in the future or next year or the year after, you know, this is just good. It's good practice. It's good prep to get into it now and get into the routine, make yourself familiar with the process. So there's a number of compulsory documents that are required. So everybody, no matter what the project is, you need a quotation and you need proof of funding. They're the two staples that everyone has to have. If the project, if you're a club with title on the land and it's your project, you need the quotation, the proof of funding, and you need evidence of ownership of the site. If you don't own the land, you need evidence of access to the site. If it's a national or regional project, you need confirmation of the status of the land. If it's non-equipment, so it's a non-equipment base, you need evidence of planning permission or planning approval, or evidence that this isn't required. And again, if you're doing something with an education and training board or a school, again, you need to have a license agreement in place between the groups. So say for a club who has title, the max grant is 150. For a club with no title who don't own their own land, the max grant is 25,000. And for a regional or equipment grants, it's 250,000, and for for national or regional, it's 200,000. And then for education and training boards, I think it's 300,000 that you can apply for. Excuse me. So, some of the common pitfalls from the department would be the issues around the title or access to the land. You know, clubs might own the land, but they have no way of proving it, or you know, clubs might not own the land. I know my own club, and we don't own any of our own facilities apart from our clubhouse. So any of our own pitches we don't own. And so we upgraded our 2 grass pitches in St. Anne's Park. We had to go through huge hoops to show that we had access and that we had sole access to them as well. And another pitfall: the wrong documents get uploaded. So, you know, clubs just, if they're rushing at the end, they're looking at the wrong thing. And a real common one is the wrong name on the loan or the bank statement. So again, say something like, for a GA club like us, we go by Clontarf GA Club, but our bank accounts are all in Clontarf. So it's all in the Irish. So when we were putting the application in initially, this long time ago, you know, you could easily make a mistake where you put the English or the Irish name when it's different to your bank phone. Again, the own funding issue is you have to have at least 5%, and a lot of clubs might struggle to show that they have that. Another pitfall is that the project's not started on time, or you know, the obvious one, the form's not fully complete. So there's loads of things there around kind of sports capital. I know there's a huge amount of information there for everyone. So if you do have any questions on that, fire them into the chat box and we'll try and answer them tonight. If we can't answer anything tonight, we'll come back to you with an answer as well. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to pass over to Owen McGrath, who's going to take you through the different coach education courses and officer education courses that we'd offer.
Lovely, thanks, Stephen. Yeah, I'm just going to go through our coach and officer education courses. So these would be kind of generic courses that we do. They're not sport specific. So if you want to do a sport specific course, you know, you contact your own NGB, or if you have a development officer in your club, contact that development officer. And also we part fund some sport specific development officers. And Stephen is going to have that information on a sheet. So we have a soccer development officer, 4 soccer development officers. We have a rugby development officer, cricket and tennis. So, you know, if you're interested in doing a sport-specific course, maybe it's your PDP level 1 or cricket level 1, you know, you could contact those development officers, or as you say, contact your NGB. The kind of generic sports and education courses that we do, you can see there under coach education, you have physical literacy, our coaching children course, and our academy or nursery development workshops. Then under governance, you have your safeguarding. So you all have to do our safeguarding. There's levels 1, 2, and 3 on that. And then club committee skills workshop. Auxiliary stuff, you're looking at emergency skills training and sports and nutrition workshops. And then sports inclusion, we've Sports Inclusion Development Officer, David Daly, and he look after any kind of sports inclusion and disability awareness workshop or autism and sport workshop. Just a brief kind of overview of those courses. So the physical literacy course is like an introduction to fundamental movement skills for coaches working with children. So, you know, this would be very relevant for anyone working basically with primary school age children in their club. Again, you're looking at things at the fundamental movement skills, which are things like the throwing, catching, kicking, striking, and also not only that, like, but the importance of and understanding why children engage in sport and physical activity. So, you know, it's really important that we know why children get involved in sport and why they drop out. So that's a 1 hour online course. So it's a really good course developed by Sport Ireland. Coaching children course, that's a 4-part online course. It looks at different children while adapting their sports to suit their physical, emotional and social needs. So that's just like a follow-on from the physical literacy course. It goes a little bit more in depth. Again, a really good course. Probably one of the kind of disadvantages of that course at the moment, we've run a few of those courses, but kind of the feedback we're getting from them is a little bit long. It's 60 an hour course, so like it's four workshops for 4 hours. So tomorrow, actually, myself and Stephen are doing a tutor course on that online. So we're hoping that, and I think it's earmarked that it's going to be reduced in time. So again, that would be really important in terms of those working with, you know, the primary school age children, you know, why children get involved in sport, some kind of practical tips of how you can adapt your sessions to make them, you know, easier, or progress them to make them more difficult or make them easier. Looking at things like fundamental movement skills, how you kind of marry that with your own sport specific skills. So again, a really good course. Then the nursery development course is our own workshop, and that kind of gives you a practical session at implementing the skills learned in the physical literacy course. You know, focus on your academy or your nursery, and they're called academies or nurseries. Some sports call them nurseries, some of them call them academies. And you know, some good practical tips there of how to develop a good nursery program. Then going on to the next courses. You have your safeguarding. So looking safeguarding, obviously, all coaches, children's officers, designated liaison persons, they have to do this course. So that just educates participants in best practice for the welfare of children in the particular sport. So just keep an eye on our social media for any safeguarding courses that may be coming up in Fingal. You can also email us or phone us, and again, Stephen will have all that information on the information sheet that he's going to send out. We also have Safeguarding 2, which is the Club Children's Officer. If you want to become a Club Children's Officer, you'll obviously have to have done your Safeguarding 1. And you're looking at, you know, the Club Children's Officer is looking at, you know, supporting the implementation of best practice within a club. The Safeguarding 3 is designed for the designated liaison person. Now, the Club Children's Officer and the designated liaison persons, they could be the same person within the club, but I think it's best practice to keep them separate. You know, the Club Children's Officer is more looking at the ethos of the club, whereas the designated liaison person is dealing with a lot of the concerns and specific cases and stuff. So it's probably best to keep those separate. But again, we have courses for all of those. And as I said, keep an eye on our social media, and you know, email sports@fingal.ie, and we'll have all that information on the sheet. Other courses that we do as well is our club committee skills training. Again, this is on demand. You know, if club would like us to do this with them. The club committee skills training workshop looks at the club officer roles, effective meetings, subcommittee structures, and tips for running your AGM. So again, just kind of practical tips on you know, how to set that up. Then some other workshops that we do are the emergency skills training. So that's a 3-hour course for team coaches that aims to give them the skills to administer basic emergency first aid for injuries that are common in contact sports. Again, if there's a demand for that, we could look at maybe funding first aid packs as well. I think that could be quite a popular course. We used to do that course a few years ago, and it was quite popular at the time. So again, if there's clubs that would be interested in that, just get in touch. And finally, we have sports and nutrition workshops as well. These are kind of 1-hour courses on things like, physical, mental, social benefits of sport, and looking at like nutrition tips as well. Actually, tomorrow we have at 7:30 online. Just keep an eye on just have a look in our social media, or if you're interested, we can send you a link. There's a nutrition course tomorrow online with Laura Keeley. Really good. It's our 3rd of a series of 4 that we're doing at the moment. Just looking at nutrition in general, nutrition for older age. So there's various different topics. So tomorrow we're on again as well. So just about forming healthy habits and mindfulness. So if there's anyone's interested, just register. It's free registration. Just register, and we'll send you a link. So they're basically kind of the generic coach education course that we're offering. What I'd say is, there's great merit in those courses. I know, as a lot of coaches and stuff, we tend to go for our sport-specific courses first, like get our level 1 PDP or get our level 1 GA or whatever it is. But, there's a lot of good value in some of those courses, especially like the importance of, understanding why children engage in sport and physical activity. Obviously, the things like the safeguarding, you have to have your safeguarding, emergency skills training as well. So, any questions on those, again, pop them into the chat. And, thanks very much.
Perfect. Thanks for that, Alan. And again, when I send around at the end the information sheet, all this info is in it as well. So where you go for things like the CARA courses, what CARA do, and all the other courses that Alan spoke about there.
Sorry, Stephen, just adding on to the CARA, like, our SIDO there is David Daly, and at the moment he's delivering a lot of sports inclusion and disability awareness training. So that course is looking at how to make your club more inclusive. So again, it's a 1-hour course, good course to go on. Just practical tips on how you can make your club much more inclusive. And obviously, again, if there's demand, he could possibly do autism and sports training course as well. So, it is important that we include everybody in our community. So, again, contact David, like if you're interested in getting one of those courses delivered to your club.
Lovely. Cheers, Alan. Thanks. So just, I suppose, on the club development stuff, again, on the checklist, there's certain steps we have to that we have to follow. So obviously, as a club, the first thing we'll do if we're looking to engage with the council or with the council sports office is we'll register with the Fingal PPN. After that, then we linked in with us here in Fingal Sports Offices. If you're not registered, I'm sure most of us are, but if you're a new club, you register with your NGB. And again, you might look at doing, again, if you're a new club, especially the Fingal Committee Skills Workshop, or, you might undertake the Physical Literacy Workshop or the Disability Awareness Training. Obviously, we're fully compliant with our governance requirements as well. And we might sign up to the CAR or the Disability Charter, the I'm All In campaign as well. There's another thing, I suppose, as well, the club should look at doing as well as a facility audit. And so kind of just looking at what do you have at the moment? What do you need? How accessible is it? What you have? And what are the strengths of your facility? What are the weaknesses? And I know I said this earlier, but like one of the weaknesses that when we did our facility audit in Clontarf, our biggest weakness, our biggest threat was not having any of our own pitches. So, it's fundamental to what we do. So we had to think of ways that we could upgrade the public pitches that we have, or, make the most out of the public pitches that we have. And so again, when it comes to long-term planning, what do you have? What do you need? And now there is money there available through the sports capital as well to make your facilities more accessible as well. So I have that included. And on the fact sheet as well. And again, I spoke about it earlier, but the bigger NGBs are going to have good resources online. So I know the GAA, the FAI, IRFU, and Athletics Ireland have really good information on their websites to help you with starting off a club plan. And I know Dublin GAA especially they have officers who come out to the club as well, and meet with the club and take you through a planning process as well. But Sport Ireland have a really good section on their website as well under strategic planning, but it's actually quite hard to find on the website. So what I've done is I've included that on the document as well. I'm going to send around. And Sport England actually have a really good website devoted directly to club planning and club development as well. So I've included a link for that as well. We're nearly there. So just on the club development pathway then, I suppose, just so we know what the hierarchy and where everything sits, at the bottom of kind of the main interaction you're going to have as a club is with your NGB. So all your sport-specific coaching courses, all your regulations, like your rules of play and that kind of stuff, they come from the NGB. And linking in with us in the Fingal Sports Office, that's going to help you with grants, safeguarding, non-sport-specific training, the stuff that Owen talked about. Linking in with Fingal County Council then in the wider sense is the Fingal PPN, the Public Participation Network. The committee skills is in there as well. And there's also there's different types of funding around events and committees as well. And that's all going to be on the information that I send you. And then when it comes to Sport Ireland, so they're the national guidelines, their governance, they dictate what all the NGBs are doing really. So they control everyone, they're the masters. Okay. So I'm just going to pass over again just to Kieran Russell, and Kieran's going to talk a little bit about our community sports hubs. So Kieran, if you want to fire away there.
Hi folks, yeah, as Stephen said, so I'm the coordinator for the community sports hubs in Fingal. The community sports hubs are a relatively new initiative from Sport Ireland. So only in the last kind of 3 to 4 years they started to roll out nationwide. The first one developed within Fingal would have been Balbriggan in 2018, which was followed in 2019 by the Tyrrellstown 100 Sports Hub as well. So essentially, the aim of the community sports hub is to engage with local communities to help increase participation in sport and physical activity. So that's done through a number of different ways, creating new programs, working with local clubs, to identify training and development needs, but also then working with local agencies as well. So the likes of youth services, community Garda, family support networks, HSE, community centres, local development groups, that kind of thing. We'd also link in a lot with the NGBs, particularly with some of the NGBs that might have lower participation rates. And I'll give you an example of some of the programs that the hubs have developed over the last couple of years since they started. Just one thing to kind of point out, and in relation to the community sports hubs, it's exactly that. It's looking at a particular community and seeing, what are the needs. So, one sports hub would be very different to the next. You're looking at different needs. There could be a different number of clubs involved, different ideas. You could have one hub that would have a booming GAA club, and then another that might not have any GAA or soccer or anything. So it's looking at those particular needs and seeing what works best, and then working with the relevant groups to try and develop something. Each hub will have its own coordinator. So I coordinate the Balbriggan hub mainly, and then my colleague Gordon would coordinate all the activity in Tyrrellstown 100. But and then just to give you an idea of some of the programs that we would have run, from the beginning, we would have identified, as I said, some of the sports with lower participation rates. So we had a badminton program that was done through schools with, a couple of hundred kids that taken part. We would an orienteering program. So orienteering is a big part of the school's PE curriculum. So it's part of the outdoor adventure strand. And kind of, we're having a chat with some of the schools. It started off in Balbriggan. It was very much a neglected area. So it was something that we found that that schools needed support with, but as well as that, we were able to engage with the local orienteering club and develop from that. From that, it has then kind of grown to a community initiative, and it was something we were able to roll out last year during lockdown. It was a program called Run Your Town. So essentially we were able to map 5 locations across Fingal to be mapped for orienteering purposes. From that, then people were able to take part, register online. There was no equipment needed. All people needed was a phone and a particular app, and they were able to go out with their families, stay within their, the distance within 2 or 5K, whatever it was at the time, and without, by abiding by social distancing and so on. So that's worked really well. Other programs like walking groups, couch to 5Ks, climbing programs, walking, football, after school sports. So it's very much, as I said, one hub is very different to the other, and you'll see a number of new programs kind of starting, and that's mainly the idea. If there is anyone from Balbriggan or Tyrrellstown Woodhullard area, please feel free to get in touch with either myself or Gordon. I'm sure Stephen will pass on the details later on if you don't already know us. So that's me. Thanks very much. And if anyone has any questions on the sports hubs, you can put them in the box, and I'll do my best to answer them later on.
Cheers, Kieran. Thanks, Emil. So if you do have any questions around the hubs, do feel free to get in touch. And again, I'll have Kieran and Gordon's details in the document that I'm going to send around. Just the last couple of slides here, just I suppose over the last few years, we've been developing this learning portal as well. I just wanted to mention it. It's a good place for kind of different ideas around programs, around what we do, around what some of our partner NGBs would do as well. And it's kind of it's a good one-stop shop for coach education, community initiatives, and it's kind of a good overview of the different programs that we've run, both in a school and community setting. So it's learning.fingal.ie. And again, just I suppose while we're in such weird times as well, and we can't probably meet up as normal as clubs would, the Be Active at Home tab there has a load of different free programs that are on that you can do with kids, whether they're home workouts or the Run Your Town that Kieran was talking about if you're in one of the 5 areas that are mapped. And then there's just the skills challenges and that kind of stuff there. So, if you're interested, have a look and check it out. And Kieran and Owen have done a huge amount of work on that as well. So, do you have anything to add on the portal, lads?
No, just I suppose the partners, if you one of those, the partners are our partners are with FEI, rugby, cricket and tennis. So if you're one of those sports, you can click on that, and you get the relevant officers as well. And just as you're emphasising, the Be Active at Home is great now. So maybe you could throw it out in a WhatsApp group or whatever, and just might keep kids active or whatever. While we're in the middle of COVID, I suppose, at the moment. It's something just to keep kids active and that. What we do tab will just go through everything that we do, all the coach education that we've talked about, and all our various different programs. Again, everything's there. Just have a quick glance at it anyway. Some good information up there.
Perfect.
So just on that, and then I suppose to follow on from what Owen is saying, is that please feel free to have a browse, see what's there. And if you do have suggestions in terms of, maybe what we might be missing, or if there's other programs that you'd like to see online, please do get in touch with us. And it's something that we'll try and put together for you and put on the website there. Absolutely. It's constantly in development. So there may be areas where there mightn't be as much information, and then there'll be other areas with lots of stuff. So if there is something you feel that might be missing, please do feel free to get in touch with us about it.
Yeah, and that, from that point of view, it is it's your portal as well as much as it is ours. So do feel free to suggest and to use and all that kind of stuff. And so we're just about to wrap up here, guys, just in terms of our end. So I suppose the next steps for everyone, if you haven't registered with the Fingal PPN before, now's a good time to do it. And especially if you're a new club, identify your NGB, identify what their specific coaching pathway is, and identify the different staff that might be in your area. So whether it's, again, if it's if it's tennis, if it's cricket, if it's rugby, if it's soccer, and there's other sports as well, like basketball or athletics, that would have people working in different areas too. So, identify the resources that are in your area and try to maximize them. And again, link in with the sports staff in Fingal. So link in with myself or Owen or Kieran or any of the other information that I'm going to pass on later on. If you have questions about something, do feel free to link in with us. That's what we're there for. That's what we want to do. We want to be there to help you. And again, just on a checklist, if you are starting a club development plan, or if you are going down that route, create your own club development checklist. Identify the gaps that you might have within your club, and that makes it much easier to try and fill them. And then this is the list again. This will be on the information that I send around. But these are all the different sports development officers who are working directly with Fingal County Council. So just from us, thank you very much. And if you have any questions, feel free to unmute yourself there now and ask away and we'll just have a quick look at the chat box as well and make sure there's not too much in there. But again, thanks for your time tonight. Really appreciate it. And look, I know everyone's probably sick of Zooms and that kind of stuff by the time it gets to this time of the night. So we do appreciate it. Sorry, on you something?
Yeah, just we have a couple of questions on the chat. Just from someone there, can you apply for other funding at the same time as the sports capital grant? So yeah, the answer to that would be yes. You could apply for your youth sports grant or your sports equipment grant from Fingal. The sports capital grant is administered by the department, but you can't apply for both the youth sports and the sports equipment grant. That be right, lads? Yeah. Yeah,
so they're basically they're pulled from the same funding. So the sports equipment funding and the youth sports grant are one and the same in terms of the funding pool that they come from. So you can only apply for one of them. But you can apply for the sports capital every year. You can apply for the youth sports grants every year, or the sports equipment grant every year. So it's there to be applied for. So make sure you don't miss out if you have a need for it.
Registering with the PPN is very important as well. If you want to use sports, the sports equipment, registering the PPN, Fingal PPN. So that's something that you could do almost straight away.
Yeah, and that'll all be included now. I'm going to email everyone with the information from tonight. And if there's anything specific that we didn't cover that you'd like to talk about, or you'd like us to look at, do come back to us. Do ask us the question, because we have time to come back to you. We will. So just Tom, I'll circulate that PowerPoint as well. So that's no problem at all. So if there's no real questions, or if there's no more questions,
Miss Arthur's.
No, I can't be Dublin. You can go nowhere.
Yeah.
And again, thanks Jennifer for coming along tonight. And that's really Clan Credo, guys, it's a really helpful organisation, a really good resource to have for so many different ways. So do link in. Let's use everything we have at our disposal. So again, thanks so much for coming tonight, guys. Thanks everyone for presenting as well. Really appreciate it. And we will talk to you all very soon, hopefully. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, folks.
Great, thanks everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. I took a drink of water in the first slide and it went down the wrong way. I was trying not to cough all the time.